Language skill, role of listening and speaking. 5 to 8 questions are regularly asked from this chapter in seated exam. All the topics listening, speaking, reading and writing skill are important. Language are generally taught and assessed in terms of 4 skills, that is listening, speaking, reading and writing. The proper order or procedure involved in learning a language is listening, speaking, reading and writing. Thus, LSRW is the process of language acquisitions. Listening and reading are known as receptive skill, while speaking and writing are known as productive skill. All language learners will need to develop their skill in each of these areas, and language class should incorporate activities related to all these skills. According to NCEP 2005, speech and listening, reading and writing all are generalized skill, and children's mastery over them becomes the key factor affecting success at school. Listening skill. Listening comprehension is the receptive skill in the oral mode, as it is said that speaking is gold but listening is diamond. One should give importance to others' words while having a conversation and need them what they want to communicate overall. Listening skill provides strength to our pronunciation skill. Additionally, we really mean what we listen to and understand. Listening situations. Listening situations can be classified into 2 kinds, which are as follows. Interactive listening, including face-to-face conversation and telephonic calls, in which we are alternately listening and speaking, and in which we have to chance to ask for clarification, repetition or slower speech from our conversation partner. Locally available resources include folklore and storytelling, community singing and theatre. As a sector of language learning, listening can be enriched by music, which include folk, classical and popular compositions. Non-interactive listening situations are listening to the radio, TV, films, lectures or sermons, in such situations we usually don't have the opportunity to ask for clarification, slower speech or repetition. Micro skill for listening. Richards 1983 cited in Omagio 1986 proposes that the following are the micro skills involving in understanding what someone says to us. The listener has to retain chunks of language in short-term memory, discriminate among the distinctive sound in the new language, recognize stress and rhythm patterns, tone patterns into intonation contours, recognize reduced form of words, distinguish word boundaries, recognize typical word order patterns, recognize vocabulary, detect keywords such as those identify topics and ideas, guess meaning from context, recognize grammatical word classes, recognize basic syntactic patterns, recognize cohesive device, detect sentence constitutes such as subject, verb, object, preposition and the like. Speaking skill. Speaking is the productive skill in the oral mode. It, like the other skill, is more complicated than it seems at first and involves more than just pronunciating words. Speaking situations. There are 3 kinds of speaking situation in which we found ourselves. Interactive. It includes face-to-face conversation and telephonic calls in which we are alternately listening and speaking, and in which we have a chance to ask for clarification, repetition and slower speech from our conversation partner. Partially interactive. Some speaking situations are partially interactive, such as when giving a speech to a live audience, where the conversation is that the audience doesn't interrupt the speech. The speaker can see the audience and judge from the expression on their faces and body language whether or not he or she is being understood. Non-interactive. Some few speaking situations may be totally non-interactive, such as when recording a speech for a radio broadcast. Micro skill for speaking. Here are some micro skills involving in speaking. The speaker has to pronounce the distinctive sounds of one language clearly enough so that people can distinguish them. This includes making tonal distinctions. Use trace and rhythmic patterns and intonation patterns of the language clearly enough so that people can understand what is said. Use the correct form of words. This may mean change in the tense, case or gender. Put words together in correct word order. Use vocabulary appropriately. Use the register or language variety that is appropriate to the situations and the relationship to the conversation partner. Make clear to the listener the main sentence constitutes, such as subject, verb, object, by whether, means as language uses. Make the main ideas stand out from supporting ideas or information. Make the disclosure hang together so that people can follow what you are saying. Reading skill. Reading is readily accepted as a focus area for language education. A child's education is considered incomplete if the child doesn't have the ability to read. But in India, reading doesn't get as much importance as it should get. According to NSHIP 2005, our school syllabi are burdened with information absorbing and memorizing tasks, so pleasure of reading is missed out. Opportunity for individualized reading need to be built at all stages in order to promote a culture of reading and requires nurturing of school and community libraries. Reading. Types of reading. Reading can be classified into the following types: silent reading, aloud reading, intensive reading and extensive reading. Importance of reading skill. Without being able to read, a human being is deprived of gaining knowledge. A person can face many hurdles due to inability to read. In today's world of specialization, only attending school or college is not sufficient. A person must be able to acquire more knowledge in his area of profession from reference book. In today's world, reading helps a person to analyze the situations by reading newspaper, magazine, etc. and act accordingly. Reading can help a person utilize his leisure time. Critical thinking can develop only by vast reading of many thinkers, so reading is an integral part of a person's development. Characteristic of reading skills are: reading involves complex cognitive skill. Reading is selective as it is based on the reader's choice. Reading should be clear and fluent. Reading should be enjoyed with correct intonation and pronunciation. Silent reading means when we read silently. Aloud reading means when we read aloud. Intensive reading is when we read for a task or for a aim, and extensive reading when we read for pleasure, for entertainment, etc. Micro skill involved in reading skill. Micro skill involved in reading skill are: decipher script is an alphabetical system that means establish a relationship between sound and symbols. Recognize vocabulary. Pick out keywords such as those identify topics and main ideas. Recognize basic syntactic patterns. Reconstruct and infer situations, goals and participants. Distinguish the main idea from supporting details. Adjust reading strategies to different reading purposes. Methods involved in reading and writing are: see and tell method or look and say method. With this method, children learn to recognize whole word or sentence rather than individual sounds. Student is supported to look at a picture and then utter the word related to the picture. Because of familiarity of pictures, children associate the word easily. In next step, short sentences are introduced in place of individual words. A picture is displayed and the learner is shown a short sentence related to the picture. By making word cuts, different sentences can be created. This method was adopted by psycholinguistics but teach the learners to learn through rote memorizations. The language experience method. This method supports children concept of development and vocabulary growth while offering many opportunities for meaningful reading and writing activities through use of personal experience and oral language. The context support method. When learners initially learn to read, it is important to choose books that really interest them. That is, if boy like cars, choose a book with picture and simple words about cars. Some books are specially written to support this method of learning. Errors generally made in learning. Some common errors generally made in reading are: read with getting stuck at many places, wrong postures while reading, keeping the books very close to eye, no fluency or speed, not able to recognize correct words, lack of intonation according to emotions of a particular text, lack of guidance while reading. These problems related to reading can be prevented by providing appropriate linguistic environment, selection of reading materials according to the mental level and interest of the learners. Writing skill. Writing is the productive skill in the written mode. It too is more complicated than it seems at first and often seems to be the hardest of the skill even for native speaker of a language, since it involves not just a graphic representation of speech but the development and presentation of thoughts in a structured way. Writing skill is an important aspect of language teaching, as writing skill reinforce oral and reading work. According to NCF 2005, writing ability should be placed in the same domain as artistic expression and not to receive it as merely a skill developed for office work. During the primary years, writing ability should be developed holistically in conjunction with sensibilities associated with talking, listening, and reading. At secondary level, routine tasks like letter writing or essay writing should be less emphasized so that imaginations and originality are allowed to play a more prominent role in education. Aims of writing skill. The main aims of developing writing skill are to communicate the thoughts and feelings in written forms, answer questions in the examinations completely, develop literature, books, articles, etc., able to write fluently, following proper grammar rules, able to express and organize ideas systematically. Learners are able to follow different techniques of writing. Micro skills or characteristics of writing. Here are some of the micro skills involving in writing. The writer needs to use the orthography correctly, including the script and spelling and pronunciation conventions. Use the correct form of word. This may mean using forms that express the right tense or case or gender. Put words together in correct word order. Use vocabulary completely. Use the style appropriate to the genre and audience. Make the main sentence constituents such as subject, verb, and object clear to the reader. Make the main idea distinct from supporting ideas and informations. Make the written text coherent. Make a content according to the mental level of the reader. Handwriting. A good handwriting attracts the reader. A good handwriting should be legible and written in simple and clean script with proper space. There are various factors that render the handwriting bad. Some cautions to be taken while writing as the follows: good and appropriate posture, distance between notebook and eyes, holding pen and pencil in a proper way, use of calligraphy notebook for practice, proper writing materials should be used, writing keeping in mind the margin in the notebooks, word formation should be straight, not slanting. Teacher's handwriting should be legible and bold. Use of proper punctuation mark, proper classroom environment for the learner. Select word with the right strength and vigor.